Welcome to Coaching and a Cuppa, where we have conversations about coaching with other coaches. My name is Leslie Miserak with Get Courageous Coaching. We offer leadership, confidence, and retirement coaching. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let's take a listen. So today I have on Zoom with me Doris Jackson Shazier. She is with Shazier Coaching and Consulting. Doris, I am so happy that you are here with me today. Thank you for joining the conversation and Coaching in a Cuppa. How are you doing?
I am doing well. Thank you so much, Leslie. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you and your audience.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, first thing first, what's in your cuppa?
I have some fresh orange juice in my cuppa.
Oh, fresh OJ, but I love that cup. Okay, cheers to you. I love that cup. Mrs. Always Right. Was that a gift from your husband or a gift from your friend or something for yourself?
It was actually a gift from my daughter.
Love that. I love that. Oh, that's a great cup. So thank you for sharing that as well. So you're a coach, and this whole podcast series is really about conversations with coaches about coaching. And so I'd like to learn a little bit about your story, who you are, what your coaching is like, and how you got here.
Oh, well, thank you. And I love the way you're asking that question. I often tell people that I introduce myself in two ways. I tell them who I am and what I do because I believe they're two different things. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I believe some of us kind of get confused with, oh, we do this. And so that must be who we are. And no, I do things in exchange for compensation, but that's not who I am in totality, right? So I'll start by what I do. Again, I'm a leadership coach and management consultant. I partner with small business owners and leaders and executives and help them to create high accountability, high morale environments. So that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of my expertise. I've noticed over the 20 years of my career in leadership that I find some people who have either really good high standards and really good environments of accountability, and then they have no relationship. And then you have people who have really great relationships, but it seems like their standards or their ability to hold people accountable suffers. And so I
Mm-hmm.
specialize in helping them to find the balance and to strike the balance between having the high accountability and high morale. And so that's pretty much what I do. And then who I am, I love to describe myself as the titles that no one can take away from me. I'm a mom before. I have the unique parenting experience of I have a 20-year-old and I have a 5-year-old. Um, and I have a 17 and 12-year-old in between. So I kind of get to experience kids at all stages at the same time. So from young adult to kindergartner, right? And so it's an exciting time to be a mom. I'm also a
Ooh.
wife. Yeah, I'm a wife. I've been with my college sweetheart for the last 22 years. I'm a avid reader. I'm an author. I've authored my second book now that's going to be published next month. And I love to travel. So that's a little bit about who I am and what I do.
I love the way you introduce yourself as to who you are. I've done an activity where I use that and kind
Mhm.
of go through all the pieces, the facets of me
Yeah.
versus it just being about work. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, we have to back up for just a moment.
Okay.
Congratulations on the age span of kids. What a difference between 5 and 20, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's a big difference. And man, times have changed over that 15-year time span. So fantastic on that one. But I want to go back to your book. So tell me a little bit about your first book and the second book that's coming out.
All right. So a snippet about my first book is called Raising Justice.
Mhm. I
Um,
read about that. I want to hear.
Oh, awesome. So Raising Justice is about the lessons I learned in motherhood. And so what I really do is take the readers on pretty much my journey, starting as um, a 19-year-old sophomore in college. I went to Florida State University. I find myself pregnant in an unsavory situation, just to say the least. And I contemplate not continuing on with this pregnancy. And through divine intervention, I decide to continue on. And I really tell the journey of what it was like to raise that starting at 19 years old, to raise this child, my rise in corporate America. I exited corporate America to become a full-time entrepreneur, and I was at the director level. So as I'm raising this baby, I am moving throughout my career, and I raise a high-performing 19-year-old college graduate. And so Justice, which raising Justice has now graduated from college at 19 years old. And so it's a real, it pulls at the heartstrings type story when you think about just the challenges and the resiliency that was needed in order to see our way through. And so lessons learned in motherhood, I don't know, I think it's a good book. I'm partial, but there's some really good nuggets for everyone in the book.
I love that.
Yeah.
How do you equate raising justice to raising leaders?
Oh man. And so to me, that's exactly what raising justice is. So the title actually has two meanings. One of them is literally raising justice, me, the story of me raising my daughter justice. But that other meaning is raising justice in terms of how do we parent in a way that creates high performing kids.
Mm.
And so when I think about raising justice, one of the key components that readers can lead to will take away from that book is how do you parent in a way that you weren't parented? And so you really get to see me become an active listener. You get to see me suspend judgment. You get to see me kind of grow as I am raising this child to become a leader that's even better than me. And so when I think about raising leaders, I think the story definitely has the inner workings of the foundation to raising leaders.
Wow.
Now, my second
Fantastic.
book that's going to drop next month is called Pieces to Peace. And it's Pieces to Peace, How I Overcame Corporate and COVID. And a lot of my work will be part memoir, part guide. And so this is a part memoir, part guide. And I talk about toxic work environments and how to navigate them, how to survive for them, and how to heal from them.
Wow, fantastic. Sure, a lot of people can learn from that. So thank you for sharing all of that. It's funny when I was looking at, your bio and going through LinkedIn and looking at the Raising Justice, I was really intrigued not only by what the name meant, because there's so many ways to interpret that. So thank you for sharing. I think that's fantastic. Wow.
Thank you. Yeah, most people are kind of surprised to figure out that Justice is the actual real person. I'm like,
Action.
yeah, her name is
I
Justice.
love that. Right. My head went in a different direction. So I really thank you for sharing that. So, here today to talk about coaching. So your path to coaching and, what do you bring to the table? What's your coaching niche?
So, I would say my path to coaching, I feel like I've been coaching my whole life.
Hmm.
I'm the big sister of the family. And so big sisters sometimes are the managers of the family. And so I feel like my path to coaching has been so intuitive for me because again, I've been big sister. And so I've been coaching my whole life. And again, my expertise, my niche is helping people to strike that balance between high
Hmm.
accountability and high morale. And I also don't just put that transcends the business. And so I like to say
Hmm.
high accountability, high morale in business and in life. And so another thing that I do with my leaders is I help them to transfer the skills that they learn at work into the home environment and from the home environment into the work environment. One example is individual development plans. I remember when I was at work and I was responsible for my leader, I had to write an individual development plan and help them map out their goals, their career, and the things they would achieve. I often challenge people, do you have individual development plans for your children? And they're like, no. I'm like, why not?
No.
Why
Hmm.
not? You go to work and you cultivate a plan for those leaders. Why not your children?
I like
And so, yeah, and so I help leaders to identify those things that they can transfer. Each one of my kids has an IDP.
I like
And,
that.
and yeah, and we talk about where do they want to be academically, socially, health wise, for my older ones financially. We set those goals and then we talk about what are the steps to get there. And then I help to be not only a parent, but an accountability partner to help them be there, get there. And so that's kind of where my specialty is helping people to manage both areas of their life, home and work.
I love that. So, as you think about the accountability and the morale, is there a particular tip or something that you could share with listeners that can help people maybe achieve one or both more effectively?
Hmm. I would say the one thing that helps both is how you create a culture of feedback.
Hmm.
If you can create an environment where people feel comfortable giving feedback, whether that's at work, at home, whether you're trying to increase the accountability or the morale of the environment that you're in, if you can create a culture where people feel comfortable, where they're psychologically safe to give feedback, it is a game changer. Because most of the times, trust and things are eroded because either people are too afraid to speak up or
Yep.
they've leaned into gossiping and they're spilling out too much. It's how do we create a constructive environment of feedback where you trust that I am telling you the things you need to be successful, and I can trust that you're going to tell me back the things that I need to be successful. But I think if you can create a culture of feedback, you can help um, increase accountability and morale.
I love that. And I think, as you say that, the two things come to mind is that accountability feedback is invaluable for accountability,
It
right?
is.
Especially when it's feedback that's positioned properly, when it's coming from a place of growth. You
Exactly.
want that person to grow. But going back to feedback, looking at it from the other side, feedback delivered well can build trust. It may hurt in the moment, especially if it's negative, right?
Yeah.
But it can really start to build trust once it starts to sink in and people understand how that feedback can impact them. If they pick it up and they do something with it, how it can change their work, their career, how they feel about everything, and I think impact trust. Do you agree? Disagree? I'm open
No,
to an
I
argument if you
completely
disagree.
no, no, I completely agree. Completely
Yeah,
agree.
that's
Yeah.
so cool. I like that as kind of a way to pull all of those things together.
Yeah.
Now, you talked about management consulting or business consulting. Do you primarily work with small businesses, small to medium businesses? What's your kind of ideal client?
I think my sweet spot is medium-sized organizations,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it comes to that consulting piece. I like to say if you have a people problem, I have a solution. So medium, even large-sized companies, I have the ability to work with. I've done some work in the public sector as well,
Mm-hmm.
agencies, and they're around anywhere from 50 to 125 employees. And so I'm
Right.
able to create workshops in series that help them to gain traction in some of those leadership development areas. Now, I would tell you, my heart is for the small business owner. The small business
Okay.
owners have my heart. I will say it's probably one of my most challenging areas as well. Two key reasons why. Number one, the small business owner is the expertise in their industry. And sometimes it's hard for them to hear that they're the problem. So they bring me in, they want me to
Yep.
consult with them. I'm telling them, oh, they think either people don't want to work, nobody listens, this generation, like I hear it all. And sometimes I have to pull them aside and tell them that it's them. And some
Mm-hmm.
of my small business owners, they don't like to hear that because they're the boss. And I have to often challenge them, like, you're great, your business is great, you found a lot of success. Tell me, where have you educated yourself in the area of leadership? When have you invested in just the skill of leadership? How do you know how to be a boss? You just became a boss because you own the business, but you never you haven't really, really developed that skill set. And
Yeah.
so that's one thing. And then the other thing is they don't budget for development.
Mm-hmm.
Th-
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
And so my heart is really for the small business owners. They seek me out. I get a lot of consultations with them, but they're my hardest sell because they
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily budget for leadership development. And sometimes that's the solution that I suggest. Or their mindset hasn't really adapted to the fact that they need to be developed as a leader because
Yeah.
they're already, the owner in their mind. So,
Yeah, and I completely see that. There's so many small businesses where entrepreneurs have grown a business, and at some point they've got to hire a CEO because they just don't have the capabilities.
Yep.
They're maybe the visionary, the idea person, the thinker. But leading a business is completely different than creating a vision.
Exactly.
I mean, because it's all about the people at that point versus the product or the service. So yeah, I can see where that's coming from. So that's a little bit about a challenging part of your business.
Yeah.
Is there any favorite part? Anything that just I know you talked about your heart is in the small business space, but are there any things that really make your heart sing in your business?
I would tell you when I get to facilitate workshops, I
Mm-hmm.
think that's where I'm in like my special place. I love to be up there and I like to see the light bulb come on or the aha moments, like
Mm-hmm.
when you can
Mm-hmm.
see it hit them and they kind of sit back in the chair and think about it and it sinks in. And it's like, yes, I kind of like I got them. I can see this shifting and changing. And then we start going into implementation and sustainability. Okay, so now what are we going to do with what we've learned? So I really like being in the room and teaching and coaching in that group setting. And so that's where I'm most delighted. The cool thing about my job and what I do is I took my favorite parts of my last 20 years of working experience and created my business. And
Mm-hmm.
so I literally get to live out what I like to do most in my business. Before I transitioned into entrepreneurship, I was the senior director of field leadership development. And my whole job was to create leadership programs for store managers, district level managers, and regional vice presidents. And so when I decided to craft up my business, I'm like, that was my favorite part of my job was running those cohorts and teaching those leaders. And so I get to do that across all industries, all over the country. And so I love what I get to do now. So what I do now is, getting out there and being in front of the leaders is the favorite part. Least favorite would probably be some of the admin work, right?
Oh.
Because I'm my own admin too.
I feel that one. I'm the worst at getting invoices done. So
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
feel that admin piece completely. One last question, what made you decide to take the leap into being your own boss, into being an entrepreneur? I know you talked a
Yeah.
little bit about kind of the COVID
Well, it was
aspect.
a couple of things. So I had a very personal experience with COVID. I was hospitalized for 7 days and on oxygen for 3 months. And I would tell you, it's the quietest it had ever been in my life. Again, I'm the person that started 19 years old, pregnant in
Mhm.
college, and I went on to still graduate, have other children, climb the corporate ladder. And so I've been a pretty busy girl, right? And this COVID experience, it sat me down in a way, in a different kind of way, where I
Mhm.
really had to think about my purpose. I almost left here with 4 kids. Am I leaving here the way I wanted to leave here? Do my kids understand who I am? I had started 10 books and never finished a book because I was so busy about life. And so I decided that I'm going to write these books. I'm going to accomplish these things, and so COVID was the interruption of everything. And in that healing process, I really started to look at life differently. When I went back to work, I saw work differently. It had always been toxic, but I think that I had thrived in the toxicity a little bit. But stepping away from it, really prioritizing what I felt like was my purpose in life and what God has intended for my life, I was able to look at things differently. And I worked in a toxic environment. I recognize now that there were elements there the entire time, but I saw it a lot more clear after that
Mhm.
experience. And so my final leap was the position that I had was eliminated, and I was offered another role. They wanted to keep me on, had been with the company 14 years. And I saw it as a sign. I'm like, you know what? This is a sign. I love this position. I love what I'm doing. And I don't have to be limited by this one company or one industry. I'm going to start my own business and continue to do this type of work. And so I declined the other position that they offered. And I started my business and I've been coaching ever since.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us today. And I think the listeners are going to find some really valuable information in this conversation. As we wrap up, how would you like for people to reach out to you? How would you like for people to find you?
Oh, awesome. Please find me on my website. My website is my name. It's dorisjacksonshazier.com. And I'm also very, very active on social media. So same name, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram at Shazier Coaching Consult or on LinkedIn.
Okay. Well, we will put all of that in the show notes. And Doris Jackson Shazier with Shazier Coaching and Consulting, I really appreciate you joining me today for this conversation, enlightening, and I look forward to a cuppa in person with you one day soon.
I appreciate that. I would so love it. Thank you again, Leslie, for allowing me to be on today.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today for Coaching and a Cuppa. We hope you enjoyed this conversation. You can listen to other coaching conversations at getcourageous.com/cuppa. Have a great day.